Yeah. So anyway, I checked out a couple things actually. So yeah, I looked at that. Um, I then went and explored some of the newer Vampire Survivors clones.
There's a lot.
There's quite a few that have popped up, and yeah,
That's bullet heaven.
Bullet Heaven games. That's correct.
Steam has codified it as bullet heaven.
Oh, it's in there now
It
officially.
is now
That's
in there. It
cool.
is
Good.
codified.
Well,
And
you know
it's
what?
funny because
Okay,
we're
shitting
talking
on
about genres
genres.
before. And
That's a
like,
pretty good
do you
one.
remember when Doom Clone became first person shooter?
Hmm.
You remember when that, because there were more FPS games that couldn't be likened to Doom, and
Right,
so it
right,
stopped being
right.
useful?
There you go. Bullet Heaven, perfect. The yeah. So shout out. So Jimmy Bones was playing a couple of these, and he recommended two that he was going through. So I was like, yeah, okay, let me jump in there because I'm still enjoying, Vampire Survivors, and that's again, the turn your brain off desire and fun is always good. So I enjoyed 20 minutes till dawn. I wanted to see what was happening. So the one of the newer ones that came out was called Death Must Die.
Hey, guess
And
what? I also played a bunch of it over the weekend.
okay. So it's interesting because of what else I played here, but which I'll get to in a second. But I played it and I was like, all right, you are very clearly inviting yourself to be compared to Hades.
I would like to ask you a question before we continue. Wooly, what is the dividing line in your heart between sincere imitation and overt theft?
The dividing line is going to be in the other game that I played.
Okay.
Because there's another what well, I'll have to talk about these simultaneously, I guess, and
Yeah.
not to just do this full like apples and oranges bit, but they are very similar. Halls of Torment. Have you seen
I
this?
played Halls of Torment.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because I was
Boy,
in the
those
mood,
games are really similar.
and yet the vibe. Halls of Torment invites itself to be compared to Diablo.
Diablo.
And they're
Aggressively. And
both
specifically Diablo 1.
gameplay wise Vampire Survivor style. Even with auto aim on or off, you can turn it on. Both games you can turn auto
Or
aim on,
point to analog stick.
so you don't have to make it twin stick, which is good because I'm like, I want the relaxed version of this. That's what I'm looking for. Level up and walk. So full points on that. I like the ability to unlock a couple of different classes pretty quickly and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Both games are pretty good at that. Right after 2-3 runs, you get to see what else is going on with different classes. But as you're playing Death Must Die, like characters are introducing themselves, and they're fully voice acted and they're doing the bit, and you're like, oh, there's a god of fire. There's a god.
I'm Summer, the god of fire. I'm the
Right.
Fates. I'm the Crom, the god of conquest.
And you're like, okay, I see what you're doing, and I see that then after you say your line, it pops up to 3 windows that are the 3 windows to
And the
pick your
3 windows
powers.
have the icon for the power, and they're a fucking diamond. And they're the same size as the Hades diamond.
And I'm you do this for a couple runs, and I'm like, okay, I don't mind if you're again paying homage to something that's great because Hades is great, but now I'm like, but this is just a subpar version of that because the lines and the characters are like they're now that you're just trying to kind of do more Hades. I'm like, oh, but these are less kind of charming characters. The lines are not as fully. The performance is not.
I completely agree. Like
arts,
you
the music,
compare summer and winter and the Fates to fucking Meg or fucking Ares or any of the god, and it's like the comparison. Like Wooly, I was like paying really close attention. It's not just that you talk to the god and the god's the same size on the screen and the text box is the same size and it's read, the dialogue is read at the same speed that Hades is. And then you get the three choices that all take up the same amount of size on the screen, and the diagonal diamonds are there with the icons. It's not just all of that. It's the transition effect from the dialogue to the three power-ups is the same as it is in Hades.
It's
right?
the
whoosh. And I'm like,
this
this is traced. This isn't inspired. This is traced over, but it's not as good.
And yep. And then you're gonna be, and then it's like, but the gameplay is gonna be hordes coming at you instead of going through rooms. So
and it's good too. That's the part where it gets complicated. Is that as a fucking Vampire Survivors clone, the sprites look good, the enemies look good.
Yes,
however, there's only one stage. And
you know, but that's the kind of thing. So the characters start showing up, and then they show up and they talk in the dialogue bubbles that pop up above your head. One of the skeletons is an enemy that's kind of like the talking skeleton we might already know a little bit. And then you go outside the environment that you start in, it down from the bottom left, right, where you kind of, the hallway starts, and then you can walk up to vistas and look over their edge and then talk to yourself about what you're trying to do to get out of there. And you're like, you didn't, like, it, every single aspect of it, not just a little bit here or a little bit there, but the whole thing is just feeling cribbed. And it's,
do you want to know,
comparing it, it's just not as good.
I feel like we can call I feel like confident in saying this feels traced rather than imitated. But do you want to hear the most nothing complaint that actually totally ruined the whole game for me? And it is so minor. It is the tiniest thing. The arts for the gods is pretty good. They're more anime than Hades, for example. The pixel art's pretty good.
Some of them are a little more hit and miss, but you know.
It's when I unlocked the second character, the elf sorcerer lady.
Yeah.
And she walked up to talk to the knight.
Oh.
And in their dialogue boxes, they're using emojis. And they're using old-fashioned bracket emojis.
Okay. Did you get the third character?
Yes, I did. Who speaks entirely in lowercase.
Yeah.
And
so they're talking in online discussion modes. So one character, the main character, the first guy, is just normal proper sentences with full grammar. The second is emoting and doing with eyes
emojis
with cutesy mouth.
with like brackets P.
Yeah. Nya
like
face and stuff like that. Yeah. And then the third one is just, I'm lowercasing, I don't want to talk to, no you energy.
Speaks like somebody who plays Dota.
Right. And couldn't be bothered.
Like a character from your Dota match went from typing slurs at you to being a character in this.
That didn't. I was like, that was like, sure, that's fine. That didn't bother me.
So like, yes, but at the same time, like, it doesn't even fit its own art, and it's just like,
But the thing with it, of course, is that like when you'd have those little dialogue moments in, you know, again, the comparison point, they're inviting Hades. You would also have, you know, Hades himself and or some of the other characters say things for those moments. So like if you walk up to one of the not unvoiced, but like when he says hey to the chef just goes murr, you know, but like you still say your line, you know, before you get out of there. And here, yeah, it all feels just like a hollower version of that. If any of it was like you're saying traced, I'm like, if any of it was like, you know, paying reference, but then putting its own flair to it, I really would give it a lot more leeway. But I'm like, well, I'm looking at it. Summer is that's a fun design for a character. Crom, not so much, you know. I'm like, Crom doesn't look.
Crom is like strangely bad out of the designs.
It wasn't.
Woolie,
winning me
we didn't even get to the worst part. So Crom is what? The god of war?
Mm-hmm.
What are the powers you unlocked for Crom?
It was like damage buffs and
Oh, you mean rotating spinning blades that
oh,
fly
spinning
around
blades
the
were yeah. Spinning
um
blades was part of it.
oh,
That's
oh
true.
wait, you do a damage over time called rupture? And then when you hold L2, it shows you what the status effect means? They're the
Yeah,
same, they're the
yeah.
same gods even.
You know, and then Ice Boy shows up, and you're like, Ice Boy looks cool, you know. But yeah, overall, I was just like, oh boy, you know. And the thing is I the gameplay is doing the Vampire Survivors thing, but I still was like, it wasn't full grab, right? So this is all to say. Meanwhile, I popped open Halls of Torment, and
Mm-hmm.
I fucking loved it, man. And I thought it was like and this is like, okay, so I'm not the right comparison point because I don't have Diablo as my nostalgic, you know,
That's fine.
but I aesthetically know what it's supposed to kind of look like, and I like, even like when you meet NPCs and it does their little scrolling dialogue thing and their little
Yeah, it's
box
clear. It's
is
very
talking.
clear.
The voice acting is a lot more deliberate and like solid for what they're trying to do. Sprite work and overall and everything is clear, is just like, it's well done for what it's trying to emulate. But in general, I'm just enjoying what it's doing with that reference more. And it also feels like some of the mechanics that I saw that I thought were more unique to this, I thought were pretty dope. Like, I like the fact that when you go into the world and you find a rare item, like, it's like, oh, bring this back to a well and you'll get it pulled up, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
save that item as a purchasable for future runs, you know? Like, that
Yeah.
sense of discovery was always fun for, like, ooh, I'm on a good run. Do I want to sacrifice one of these for future runs, you know? And if so, like, which one? Um the fact that you had, like, there's kind of like a garlic equivalent, which is like the aura around you, but it does more than just kind of hit everything in that circle. It's also a damage distributor. So like whatever you hit in that circle, it evenly distributes across the full thing, you know? A
Mm-hmm.
couple of different ways to interact with your build and stuff that I in just a couple hours of playing it, I felt were like, oh, this is different and unique from some of the stuff I was doing in Vampire Survivors, and like solid, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Um, I don't know how your Halls of Torment experience was, but between the two, I just was like, I'm coming way back to this than I am to
You
Death Must
know,
Die. Also, in
I'm
Death Must
thinking
Die, the
about
main antagonist is Death, the god
his
of
death.
death,
Yeah,
who
stuff. Yeah.
we have to die, who has to die, not
Yeah, we
unlike
got
another
death.
god of death
Yeah.
that
Well, no,
has to.
what? I don't know. If I had to describe Death Must Die, I would say that it is less than the sum of its parts. It is somehow less
I guess so.
because
I guess
every
so.
single part of it is something cool that has been taken from something cool. The
Yep.
thing it took it from did it better,
Yep.
like
It's
significantly.
the Hades parts are not as good as Hades, and the Vampire Survivors parts are not as good as Vampire Survivors.
And the gear stuff is not as good as Halls of Torment.
So yeah, Gear and Halls of Torment. I am like, I didn't think, I was like, I don't know how much I want to, you know, handle gear equipment and stuff, but like I got the hang of it very quickly, and it was like, yeah, no, you know what, I'll trade off these speed boots for a little bit more attraction orbs, you know, or whatever.
Like Vampire Survivors is always going to be the peak of this genre because of a very specific emotion. It's an emotion you have felt, but you didn't know where to put it because you didn't have the baby on hand to deflect it, which is, I'm playing Vampire Survivors. I'm going to make sure to turn my infant away from Vampire Survivors so that his dopamine regulation isn't just blasted into shit during his formative years, because I'm sitting there getting my hair blown back, feeling every neurotransmitter in my fucking brain fire at once, going, ah!
Yeah. I had one of my editors let me know that they keep their iPads away from the kid generally, but they had like one time on an airplane where there was a long
Oh
flight,
no.
and they went, okay, we'll just get an iPad for the one flight, and that was all it took for the hooks to be buried in, and
Yeah,
kids like
me and
need
Paige
it,
were
need it.
just talking this morning about low stimulation TV shows.
Yes, right. slowing it down a bit. What the fuck was it called? That well, anyway, there was some I was talking about that this morning too as well. Actually, it's interesting because it takes very little, but all this in the context of Vampire Survivors is still just like crushing it for what it's doing and everything. And there's even little bits where you're like, the music you're hearing while you're playing Vampire Survivors is super catchy and fun, and you're hearing it for half a fucking hour. You better enjoy it. And
No, I'm not hearing it for a half hour, not anymore.
okay, well,
I'm hearing
fine.
it for fucking 14 minutes.
Yeah,
And then you get to 12 minutes, and then the sound effects have completely drowned out the music, and your TV is just going bing, and I can't see anything, and I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Meanwhile, like, Death Must Die, I'm like nothing's particularly memorable or standing out to me with that soundtrack. Whereas like the goddamn Hades bass drop, like that is in my soul, So yeah, it's just it is a weird way to play it. But Halls of Torment as a Diablo Vampire Survivors thing, like I guess it, like I don't know so because Diablo more here, does that feel like more like homage, but we're doing our own thing?
Halls of Torment feels like. Do you remember? So Diablo is a very strange series in that Diablo 1 had the best aesthetic by far and had the best tone, and Halls of Torment says we understand that was the best aesthetic and the best tone, and we want to replicate that. But the gear stuff from the later games was awesome. Halls of Torment seems like a game made by people who go, all that time that you spent walking to different enemies in a Diablo game and how much of that time was wasted? What if you just stood in a single fucking spot and every enemy in the world just came at you and you just got rid of all the chaff, talking to people and moving around?
Okay.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Just get get that dopamine shit. And that predates fucking Vampire Survivors by actual decades. Okay. Right? It feels in the style of, or in belovedness to, the thing, instead of it is that thing. It's the bare minimum amount we could get away with changing before a lawyer called our office.
Yeah. Okay. And expectation as a result too is, I guess you start out in that, like you're just in some room with some guy, and then you start meeting people slowly, and then they kind of tell you a little bit about what's going on, but otherwise you're just here to play this fucking horde game. But when you think about the Hades comparison, Hades is dripping in lore, after you do your first run and get back to base and get a
that's
feel
when the
for
game
everything.
Starts. Once you beat the game. Hey, let me ask you, is there a necromancer class in Halls of Torment? This is actually vital.
In both games, you can necromancer spells as an ability.
Fucking great. The reason I say that is because there is a much smaller Bullet Heaven game that people can check out called Bone Razor Minions.
Okay.
In which all you can do is raise skeletons.
Oh, okay.
Every single power-up in that game is a different type of skeleton.
Okay.
And it's really good. It's really, really good.
What's it called?
Bone Razor Minions.
Bone Razor Minions. Okay. Yeah.
It's really good.
In each game, that's the first thing I went to. I'm like, this can be a busted skill. How strong are these skeleton buddies?
When I'm playing, if I play Hades, it's like it is sorely missed. It is like the only type of ability that I'm like, oh, Hades missed out. Oh, I want to raise skeletons, man.
Rolling with an army. Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I just want them to do it. It's cool.
But Hades' rooms are like, they're tight, like that could easily.
I know.
That could easily fuck the whole thing up.
Maybe Hades too.
Maybe.
So I gotta ask, you have played 20 Minutes Till Dawn, Vampire Survivors, Death Must Die, Halls of Torment. You're kind of going through it, and the genre's good.
And a couple of seconds of the Hollow Cure one.
I was about to ask, where do Halls of Torment and and Vampire and Death Must Die stack up against the Hollow Cure?
I need to spend a bit more time with Hollow Cure because I really just did like one or two. Like it was very, very minimal, but I didn't it didn't stand out too much to me, and the aiming thing was just a huge part of what I didn't want.
I
So
think it's got the auto aim now.
okay, okay.
Um,
But like if I have to, you know, twin stick it, which is a different kind
Yeah.
of game, then like that's just not what I'm looking for.
so for me, I've gone back to
Halls of
Hollow Cure
Torment, I
a
put
couple of
second.
times. Yeah, I've gone back to Hollow Cure a couple of times. I don't like that you use gacha. It's a free game, so yeah. I don't like how you roll for new characters. I think
Okay.
that's weird. But the characters are all very different to play. I am bored to tears by its entire aesthetic. The art, the music, the sound, the menus. I have no emotional attachment to any of these people / characters, and the actual aesthetic means nothing to me. So I'm not getting a pull.
Right, and there was like not as many. I remember last time you talked about it, there was not as many levels or characters out by comparison to.
They've
the others
gotten
at
a
the
lot,
time.
but there's way more characters now. There are
Since
way
then?
more characters
Okay.
now.
Okay. Yeah. I'd have to go back and see where it is updated now, but yeah, I just took a quick look. Excuse me, like a while ago. I feel like I legitimately want to go back, boot up more Halls of Torment, and unlock more. I got I think the 5th class of character in that, and I'm pleasantly surprised with like just the different ways they play and how everything is set up. And I guess the decision there, because you know how like Vampire Survivors, every character is any character can just become any other character. You're just choosing where you start with.
Well, there's a couple really fringe cases, but yeah, most characters can become most characters. They're just coming with a statistical variation and a starter weapon.
Yeah, here it doesn't feel like that's the case so much. You know, it feels like what your main warriors is attacking with is just that sword attack is not going to be something that your cleric can do.
Hold on. I have to stop. I just saw somebody say that this is a week of us bashing things they don't understand. I said I don't care about the aesthetic. I didn't even say it was bad. That looks so insecure. That looks so insecure. Oh my god.
I have played the Hollow Cure thing for 1 or 2 games. I have not played enough to really get a feel for it in the way I have with the other two. But at the time, the aiming thing was something I didn't like.
Nothing screams.
Yeah. It's just.
Oh my god.
But I have extra attachments to these things, and now you're disliking them, so that makes me feel bad, and I don't want to hear about the things that make me feel bad. So please stop doing it.
Pat, I really think what you said was rude. Pat, what you said was rude. Oh, it's because you hate short people, huh? It's because I'm short, huh? It's because I'm a tiny little man. Does that make you like? Come on,
dude. Yeah, look. All you could do is just give the opinions on the things you know. It is what it is. Like whatever.
I can't. Oh my god, that hit me like a bullet. Like somebody just pulling their tiny penis out and saying, "Why are you making fun of it? Why?" I'm like, I didn't even know you. I can't even see your penis. I'm not talking about it. You make fun of it now.
Now, the thing is too is like I'm coming at Halls of Torment, giving it praise, having not been a Diablo player with no connection to the source material they're going for. So I can look at
really
something
good point, actually,
independently of its source material. You know,
that's a really, really good point.
I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, it's but it is an interesting space, and I want to say that these both came out like a couple. Well, no, Death Must Die is new. Halls of Torment was a couple.
Death Must Die is new, like now new.
but it
Like
just
I think it came out last week.
yeah. So, but that's the overall feeling on it. Unfortunately, I think I'm gonna continue the Halls of Torment for my downtime needs. I also appreciate the little option that lets you turn on the aiming line to just be like, hey, what am I looking at right now?
Oh, that's nice. I didn't find that.
It's great. It's great. So you just seriously, like, every time you walk up to the group and you're like, what am I targeting? I can just, you can minorly correct. Real useful.